Hello, hello, my wonderful people of the internet. I hope everyone's been doing well. It's so nice. It's been so sunny here and really warm, and it's like reviving my energy. So I'm very, very happy about that. Um, and I wanted to kind of just yap what's been on my mind recently, and maybe some people will relate, maybe you won't. That's okay too. Um, what I've been thinking about recently is, and I think, I've been talking about on this channel for a while, um, this shift into sort of like a creator's economy or a creative renaissance. We're going through a time where so many of our paradigms are starting to fall apart and just completely crumble from the sort of false identity or foundation of fear and shame that we've built to these systems on. And we're starting to shift into a world and a society that's built off of sovereignty, coherence within the self, and this sort of actualization of your own life's purpose, as opposed to trying to seek some sort of a security through the systems outside of us and identifying with those systems. We're now realizing that we want to build these systems from a place that is actually authentic and true within ourselves. And it's sort of kind of casting this huge, I think, awakening of creativity. And I think that in the years to come, we're kind of going to go through this like creative renaissance and just see a boom and a really big expansion in what it means to be a creative person. And I've been thinking a lot about that for myself. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because I was never somebody who really identified with being a creative person, ironically, because I have a fifth house stellium. And I have like a ton of Aquarius and Pisces energy in my chart. But nonetheless, I've always been a very, very deeply like analytical person, and I tend to like think about my thinking, and I just kind of like I need to just like tear not tear but I need to kind of like peel back every layer of everything before I can feel comfortable in things. And I think that's just my nature, and that's something that I've like been coming to accept more and more about myself. But because of that, and considering my life path in becoming like a doctor, I feel like I've always just thought of myself more analytically and as a scientist, and I've always just felt like I'm not a creative person at all. And something that I always like frequently said too is like, oh, I wish I had something creative, like, other people that you see who have these like really big beautiful talents, like singing, dancing, being able to just like, you know write music or paint or whatever it is. And I wanted to talk today about like the whole concept of the starving artist, and not in the literal sense, like the literal sense being when you are an artist and you're not fully embracing that artistry, and you're kind of in that phase of like not being fully compensated and fully appreciated for your work. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about in the sense, in a metaphorical sense, like what it means to be a starving artist, in the sense of what happens when you are an artist and you've forgotten that you're an artist, and kind of what happens like mentally, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. Is I think that a lot of that directly relates to the nervous system dysfunction that we experience when we are out of touch with our creativity. And it can lead, if we're really, really, really disconnected from it and really resisting to it, I think it could even lead to more intense states of mind where we find ourselves feeling, I'll get into it a little bit more, but where we find ourselves feeling anxious chronically, a lot of perfectionism, depression, even a sense of meaninglessness, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's just like something I've been pondering a lot, because like I said, I've never seen myself as like a truly creative person until like the last few weeks. And it really, I think the process of reclaiming your creativity forces you to first redefine what it means to be creative, because it's not just, you're born and you have this gift that's really like obvious and fits the, mental schemas that we have of what it means to be an artist, what we're told that looks like, because we're told to think really one dimensionally. But being an artist, in my opinion, is really just like the ability to And I talk about this concept a lot. I think creative energy is very synonymous with sexual energy, and it's like this almost like penetrating force where you're able to go so deep, like multiple layers deep into an experience, so much so that you get into the core of what that experience is, and you almost like merge with that experience, and you are able to receive or retrieve like the pearl of wisdom or the gift or whatever it is from that experience, and then taking that gift and, you know, the wisdom that you developed in the journey of getting into that experience, like getting into the core of the experience, and then producing something into the world. And I think that we will not, as human beings, feel in alignment or feel fulfilled within ourselves or feel fully healed unless we create. That is the thing that we have to do to close the loop. Like once you heal, you then go out into the world and you create things with the things that, and not that you just like find a point of healing ever in your life, but when you feel like you've gone through these bigger journeys of healing, what you have to do in order to kind of close that loop is to then do something with that wisdom. How do you give it to the world and make it something that lives beyond just your life and creates a ripple effect within the collective? How do you really embody the energy of the journey that you've been through, or that experience, that singular experience as well? And how do you show up and live in your life in a different way energetically so that other people can feel inspired, other people can kind of see you as a portal into maybe the journey that they're currently experiencing? And so the creative journey is really just the journey of connecting to humanity at large, right? Like the process of grasping your creative force is personal to you, but then actually embodying it is no longer personal. Now you are connecting, you are like building the web of the collective unconscious and showing people, or not even showing people like physically, but I think it's even deeper than that. It's just like a feeling type of thing where you can really radiate this, or embody this journey in a way that other people can look at you, and it sort of shakes things up in their own unconsciousness. And so that's what I think the creative force is. And I really think that that is what the entire purpose of being a human being is. Like, I think that all roads come down to that at some point. And again, it doesn't even have to, I don't think creativity has to be you sitting and writing something or painting something. I think the art of doing nothing is creative in and of itself, right? To really tap into the present moment and to feel the sense of infinity and the eternal presence of your own spirit, and to then decode that communication, or to just feel it, to feel that presence of the unknown within yourself, is creative in and of itself. So the art of doing nothing is also creative in and of itself. Everything is creative. It's just a matter of how you're relating to it. And so to connect that to the topic of the starving artist is when you live your life and for whatever reason, maybe it's your family's conditioning, it's social conditioning, maybe you're carrying a lot of wounds from, past lives, if we believe in that, whatever it is, you're living your life and you've completely separated yourself from this force of creativity, and you've taught yourself that it's something outside of you. You've completely got it backwards, right? You've taught yourself that this creative force is something outside of you that you have to achieve. So then you think to yourself, I have to become an artist, I have to create this product, I have to, write this song, I have to produce this thing. And you completely forget that the creative force is not something that you have to like try to achieve outside of you. It's something you have access to, and it's more of you have access to this frequency, you take it in, you allow it to move you, you allow it to guide you. It's like the spirit of the depths, as Carl Jung calls it. You allow it to take you into the depths of yourself, and then you find whatever that product is supposed to be, right? That string of inspiration is inside of yourself. And then you create something. So it's not about me trying to get this creativity outside of myself. It's about me allowing this creativity into myself because I already am it. And then infusing whatever it is I do with that creative force. And that's completely different. And that's the process of us forgetting that process that I just explained, is how we become the starving artist. And so when you are the starving artist, you have completely disconnected yourself from that creative force. And you're now living this place in life where you are a human being, and you are starved of this creative force. And like I said, this creative force, I really think, is the entire purpose of life, and it's what keeps us going. It's what gives us meaning. And a lot of times we're not conscious of that. So you become a starving artist, like I said, through conditioning. And then maybe you go to school and you're like chasing this life that you're told that you have to live, and all of these things really exacerbate that process. And then you get to a point where you might hit a wall where you start to feel depressed, where you start to feel like you have nothing left to give because you're constantly giving and you're forgetting that it's a process of receiving. um, because you have lost the ability to create meaning in life. Everything starts to feel meaningless. You have this constant anxiety. I also think that creativity that has like lost itself can turn into a bit of like a neurosis, and it can turn into perfectionism and obsession as well. So I think a lot of times energy is not created or destroyed, it just transforms. And so when you ignore this creative force, it just shows up in a different way. It shows up in a more unconscious way because we are in an unconscious state. And so a lot of times that creativity, I think, shows up as obsession. So you can get obsessed with certain ideas, like obsessed with becoming whatever, insert whatever job, or obsessed with, a partner, or obsessed with looking a certain way, whatever it is. Um, Okay, sorry, I had to pause it for a second. But yeah, when this creative force forgets what it is, it becomes obsession. Like I said, those things that you can become obsessed with. But a really common thing that I think that we don't talk about as well is perfectionism. And I have a theory within myself that I think that perfectionism is often a byproduct of creativity that has not been fully integrated well. Because perfectionism is, I think it creative people have this ability to dream and imagine an outcome. And a lot of times we gaslight ourselves into thinking that this dream that we're dreaming of or this inspiration that we're getting is like fake. It's not real. It's just made up in our heads, right? But a lot of times I really do see that as, I see that ability to have vision and that creative force as possibilities in life. Like these are real possibilities that we can actually actualize into the world. Like you can bring that vision into the world. It's not fake. It's not just in your head. It's not just a dream world. It might not look exactly like what you're picturing in your head, but the essence of it is meant to actually be grown and sowed into this physical world. And so when you are creative and you have that ability to really tap into the perfection of things, the perfection of the universe, or just tap into a higher sort of reality or into a flow state or whatever you want to call it, it can cause us to kind of go into like this neurosis when we aren't aware of the creative process. And so we have this ability to dream or to visualize, or to, concoct these alternate scenarios in life or alternate realities in life. But again, because we're disconnected from the creative force, we think that the creative force is outside of ourselves. We get stuck in almost like a backwards loop where we then try to chase that vision that we're dreaming of instead of allowing the vision to live through us. That's a really important distinction to make, because that's how perfectionism is born. And then you mix that sort of backwards process or backwards relationship with your own creativity with whatever wounds that you have from childhood or just from living in this world, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you have to perform, feeling like you're too much, whatever it is. That just is like fuel for the fire of perfectionism, and it just separates you from creativity as well. And I think it's a huge distinction to make, because when you realize that, you can actually alchemize your perfectionism and your obsession that you have, and your need for like stimulation, and just like the like drive that you have, and understand that it's actually like two sides of the same coin, right? Like creativity and perfectionism. It's just perfectionism can I don't think that this is the only like manifestation of it. I think that this is just one part of it, but I think perfectionism really can be that manifestation of the creative force that we have lost touch with. And it's not even that you've lost touch with it, because your ability to want to perfect it, it's like a science in and of itself, right? The artist is not different from a scientist, is something that kind of like shook me awake earlier this week. The artist is not different from the scientist. It looks different, but there's a very specific, need to understand the details and the textures and all of the different little nuances of whatever it is that you're trying to create and change in the world, and also within yourself. And they're both two different fields, but it's the same science behind it. It is a science. And so the same thing with perfectionism, that ability to kind of like pick up on all of these nuances and differences and understand, like, the reason why a lot of us strive for perfection is because we understand that there is a better way that things can be. But when we're thinking like that and we're coming from a place of not feeling like we're enough, or not feeling like the present moment is enough, then we get stuck in chasing the perfectionism. We get stuck in thinking that things have to be in that way in order for me to be enough. And that's when it becomes a really unhealthy cycle that can lead you to feeling chronically anxious, even depressed, like I said before, etc. Um, but when you flip that and you think to yourself that, this is a vision, this is a truth that can live through me, and I can take it and bring it into what I'm already doing in the present moment. It's really about getting into the present moment, right? Because when you realize that this vision and this dream and this idea of quote unquote perfection is something that can live through you right here, right now, it's not about reaching a point, at some future point in time where you finally become enough. It's that you can take that vision and you can seamlessly bring it into the present moment right here, right now. That really switches things. But that's a skill and it's a practice that you have to learn with time, learning how to become more present and learning, how can I take this vision, how can I take this creative force and actually like harness it and bring it into the physical right here, right now. So you kind of have to like flip the loop, if you catch on to what I'm saying, because a lot of times we're thinking from a place of lack and we want to think in a place of receptivity, like I'm receiving this creative force, not that I'm trying to strive for it. And kind of going off of what I was saying earlier, also sorry if there's noises, I have my window open, but the last thing that I'll say is kind of going off of what I was saying earlier, is that also the starving artist can fall into these like depressive episodes as well, because like I said, creativity is the art of creating meaning in this life, in turning your life and the experiences into something. Because a lot of us fall into like nihilism and these depressive periods in life where we are kind of faced with the truth that none of this means anything and that there's no meaning and all of this is a lie and this is all just like a fragment of my own imagination, etc. And I think nihilism can be a really, really beneficial state of mind. It's really hard, but if you can allow yourself to sit with the nothingness of everything, at some point it will alchemize into this realization that, yes, this is all a lie, this is all an illusion, but it's a blank canvas. And perhaps that's the entire point of why I'm here, that this is a blank canvas and I can create the art, I can create the meaning, I can choose to make meaning, and that the meaning is not because I'm creating it, I don't have to be attached to it, right? When we're assuming that the meaning that we're creating in life is something that's already told to us through the systems or just through the nature of being alive, like we're just born and we're told that this is what all of this shit means. When you're relating to it in that way, it can be challenging because you get attached to it, right? But when you're relating to the world in the sense of this is a blank canvas and this is all meaningless, but that means that I can create the meaning, you also start to develop a sense of detachment from the meaning that you're creating as well, because you understand that it's just you creating it. And I don't want this video to get too long, but the sort of ultimate realization is that I'm not even the one creating it, right? Like I'm just the vessel for this inspiration and these ideas and dreams to come through me, but I'm not doing anything. I'm just making myself as open as possible for all of this to flow through me. But this isn't my creativity. This isn't my, like, it's not about you as the individual. You as the individual are just the vessel. It's just about you existing and sort of developing the ability to catch whatever is trying to come through you and bringing it into the physical world. So I'm going to end it there because I just don't like videos to get super super duper long, because then I feel like I go in 1,000 directions. But that was a bit of like the aha moment that I was having earlier this week, because I think about the creative process a lot, but I never fully accepted and integrated the identity of the creative person within myself. I've never seen myself that way. But I've always known myself to be that way. I just could never logically make sense of it. And I think that I've been sort of waking up to my own, artistry within myself and wanting to really step into that role and just the creative life. It's not about being an artist, but like living a creative life. And so I'm curious if anybody else is feeling that, because I'm sure a lot of us are. I think that that's the direction that we're going into as a collective. So I'm sure so many people are feeling that. I'm curious if you're feeling it. and maybe like what gifts that you think, you realize that you have that are actually creative gifts that you didn't realize that you have. Because for me, I realized that actually being analytical and thinking and, breaking down your mind is creative in and of itself. You don't have to just be, you know, physically gifted in other ways. It can also just, it's all unique to you and your individuality. So it's there if you can look hard enough. But I'm going to end the video now. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.